Atheists have two options for how we gain knowledge about the world: empiricism and naturalism. And I'm going to show you that both of them collapse completely before the conversation even begins. And not only that, even if an atheist tries to escape by running to rationalism, that falls apart too. The whole atheistic framework for knowledge is built on sand. Now you might be thinking, how? How do you take down the entire foundation of atheistic epistemology? Through one question. Just one. Which one of your... Welcome back to Gospelological. In this video, we're going to destroy the three methods of gaining knowledge in an atheistic universe. Part 1. Empiricism defeats itself. Empiricism states that all knowledge is derived from sensory experience, so it all comes through your senses. But the killer question is, which of your five senses told you that? The claim that all knowledge comes from the senses is not itself a sensory experience. You can't see, hear, smell, taste, or touch it. It's a philosophical/rational claim being smuggled in the front door, while empiricism kicks rationalism out the back. This makes empiricism self-refuting. It fails its own test. The philosopher David Hume's problem of induction says that you can observe the sun rising 10,000 times, but sensory experience alone can never logically guarantee it will rise tomorrow. Empiricism can't even justify its own method, the method that scientists use, many of whom are themselves empiricists. So we've torn empiricism down so far, but what is the solution to this? Christianity. The Christian answer says that God's word provides the rational foundation that makes inductive reasoning valid, declaring the end from the beginning, Isaiah 46:10, grounds the uniformity of nature. Real quick, before we move on, YouTube tells me that 97% of you watching right now are not subscribed. If you're enjoying this content, I upload long-form videos weekly and shorts daily. So go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Part 2. Naturalism defeats itself. The naturalism claim is that only natural physical things exist. Is that claim itself a physical object? Can you weigh it? Can you put it under a microscope? Can you examine it to see what it's made of? No, you can't. It's immaterial. The statement, only physical things exist, is an abstract, immaterial proposition, which means it's using something non-natural to argue nothing non-natural exists. So when a naturalist argues that nothing non-natural exists, they are in reality proving that non-natural things exist. Laws of logic are not physical. They have no mass, no location, no chemical composition. Yet naturalism depends on them to make any argument at all. Mathematics, numbers, moral values, the laws of physics themselves, none of these are physical stuff, yet naturalism requires them. The Plantinga's self-defeat argument, or the evolutionary argument against naturalism, if naturalism plus evolution are true, our cognitive faculties were selected for survival, not truth. So you have no reason to trust the very reasoning you're using to conclude naturalism is true. What's the Christian answer? The Christian answers that logic, math, and reason are grounded in the mind of God, the Logos, John 1:1. They make sense in a Christian worldview. They don't make sense in an atheistic worldview. Part 3. Rationalism is just as broken in an atheistic worldview. Rationalism, defined, states that knowledge comes primarily through reason and logic independent of experience. On the surface, this seems to escape the empiricist trap, but in an atheistic framework, rationalism faces a fatal problem. If there is no God, the human mind is just neurons firing, a product of blind, unguided evolution. Why would a brain shaped by random mutation and natural selection for survival be a reliable truth detector about abstract reality? The answer is that it can't be. Evolution states we're just puddles of goo. Our brains are they just evolved. They're just puddles of goo. Everything is completely random. We're just a side effect. We're just an accident. If we're just an accident, then we can't trust our brains to be the standards for morality, the standards for logic, the standards for everything. You can't trust them at all. C.S. Lewis had the argument that he said, if my mental processes are determined wholly by the motions of atoms in my brain, I have no reason to suppose my beliefs are true, and hence no reason for supposing my brain to be composed of atoms. Atheist rationalism is borrowed capital. It assumes the mind is rational and trustworthy without being able to account for why that would be the case in a universe with no designer. The rationalist has to assume the very thing they can't explain, the reliability of reason. And what's great is that they're going to try and use reason to defend the reliability of reason. This is circular reasoning, and you have to use something transcendent above the universe, whatever reason is based upon, to defend reason. The atheist doesn't have anything like that. There are no immaterial concepts that are transcendent above nature, transcendent above what you can sense. But the Christian does have that. It's God. So the Christian answer to the rationalism problem is that humans are made in the image of God. Genesis 1:26-27. God is the ultimate rational being. Our minds are designed to think truly. Reason is at home in a Christian worldview. So this is why I believe that presuppositional apologetics, the presuppositional method, is the best. It's the king of all apologetics, because rather than arguing for Christianity from neutral ground, it exposes that there is no neutral ground. Every worldview has presuppositions, foundational commitments that can't be proven from something more basic. And if you undermine those extremely basic things, then the atheist cannot use those super basic things to argue against you, and you have already won the argument. The atheist must borrow from the Christian worldview to even make an argument. They assume logic is universal. They assume the world is orderly. They assume their mind is reliable. All things that only make sense if God exists. Presuppositional apologetics is just an internal critique. It kicks the chair out from under the atheist. It takes the atheist worldview on its own terms and shows it cannot account for the preconditions of intelligibility, logic, math, science, morality, reliability of reason, etc. The presuppositional challenge is, I'm not asking you to accept my conclusion yet. I'm just asking you to justify yours. This is incredibly basic. Just justify reason. Just justify morality. These are things that we use, so you must have some way of justifying them. But the atheist has no way of justifying them. You ask, how in your worldview do you account for the laws of logic being universal and immaterial in a purely physical universe? Christianity doesn't just win the argument, it's the only worldview that can have an argument. Empiricism can't validate itself through the senses. Naturalism uses immaterial tools to deny the immaterial. Rationalism without God is reason floating in a void with no anchor. The very act of critiquing Christianity requires borrowing Christian assumptions about logic, order, and rationality. Christianity can ground all these concepts perfectly using God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9:10. Not the conclusion, the starting point. The fear of the Lord is the starting point of wisdom. If you're an empiricist watching this, if you're a naturalist watching this, if you're a rationalist watching this, if you're an agnostic watching this, I challenge you to examine what your worldview actually presupposes before you reject the one worldview that can make knowledge possible at all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned how empiricism, naturalism, and rationalism are utterly ridiculous, how atheism can't ground a single thing, and how presuppositional apologetics is the king over all apologetics. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. It will help us out a ton, and it will tell YouTube that this type of content is worth pushing out to other people who will learn more about apologetics. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. I'm Shepard Wagner, and this is Gospelological.